Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters, your Magic the Gathering source that helps you command your budget. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support. There's even a brand new Brigadier General tier where you can get a shout out on a Commander's Quarters episode that's dedicated to you. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander's Quarters studio. Welcome to the show. So recently we got a bit of an oopsie on Amazon, and because of that, well, we get an early sneak peek on some Kamigawa Neon Dynasty Commander deck names. Now, of course, Kamigawa Neon Dynasty is the next upcoming Magic the Gathering expansion, but it's not going to be out for quite some time. I mean, we finally get a break between spoiler seasons, which is quite nice because I need a break every now and then, you know? And I need to cut down on my coffee intake every now and then too. Regardless, although we just got the deck names from this Amazon leak, there is actually a ton of information that we can get from them. So with all that said, let's jump into it. So recently on Reddit, the user Night of Sorrows MTG posted 2 images on Reddit, and let's just go through them one at a time. There's a good amount of information on this image. It looks like this is a bundle that includes the Commander deck with the image that's not available, as well as a deck box that comes with it, and the bundle price is $71. The actual Commander deck itself, though, is $36.99, but most importantly, and the part that I have highlighted, is the name. And as you can see, it says, one of Magic the Gathering Kamigawa Neon Dynasty Commander Deck - Buckle Up, minimal packaging version. So the name Buckle Up appears to be the first of the Kamigawa Neon Dynasty Commander decks. And yes, I do say decks because it appears that there are going to be exactly 2 of them. Again, though, please keep in mind that I don't believe that any of this has actually been officially confirmed, but all this looks pretty legit. Regardless, the name Buckle Up, at least to me, seems pretty obvious as to what this deck is going to be about and what kinds of cards might be in Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. And before we talk about that, though, let's move on and talk about what the name is for the other Commander deck, which is going to be, well, let's just read the highlight here. One of Magic the Gathering Kamigawa Neon Dynasty Commander deck. Yeah, you already know that part. Upgrades Unleashed. So yeah, the names Buckle Up and Upgrades Unleashed seem to really fit with the set's theme, which is going to be Kamigawa more than 1,200 years in the future with, you know, ninjas and samurai that are going to be cyberpunk, essentially. So though there really isn't a lot of technology per se in a lot of older sets, like, you know, the original Kamigawa, obviously, and this new Kamigawa with, you know, being 1,200 years in the future, there's definitely going to be quite a bit of technology, and that makes sense again with these 2 deck names. And of course, I've got plenty of thoughts on what these 2 Commander decks are going to be about, and from that, what types of mechanics and what types of cards we might be seeing in Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, you know, for the whole set. So that said, I want to give you my thoughts on the first of these 2 decks. So, you might have thought the exact same thing, but Buckle Up to me immediately makes me think of vehicles, like, you know, Fleet Wheel Cruiser, an actual, basically just a car in Magic, and yeah, everyone should be wearing their seatbelts, even in Magic. So you better buckle up, because again, I believe this is going to be a deck that is built around vehicles and the crew mechanic. And if vehicles are truly going to be in Neon Dynasty, which I think makes sense because, again, it's a futuristic set and there's only so many sets out there that, you know, include the kinds of technology that would allow for vehicles. So yeah, I think it's definitely very possible that Wizards is going to lean heavily into vehicles in this set and do some pretty exciting things with them. Again, when it comes to vehicles in Magic at this point, there really aren't many. I mean, there's only 38 at this point that are legal in Commander. And most of them at this point came from the very technologically advanced set with Kaladesh. So yeah, going back to another plane that now has a lot of technology to it, with Kamigawa being, you know, again in the future, we have the opportunity to see a lot more vehicles. And of course, yes, there are some vehicles in other sets, like, you know, in Kaldheim with some boats and whatnot, but you are limited on what you can do because you can't exactly just make a car or, a helicopter or a train, etc., etc., etc. But in Kamigawa, the Neon Dynasty, you definitely can. So the potential of more and more vehicles coming in another set really expands the possibilities for vehicles in Commander, which I find it to be very exciting. Especially if with that pre-con we can get a really exciting vehicle commander, which I would assume that we would, seeing as the entire deck would be built around vehicles, so let's hope. Now at this point there are definitely some vehicle commanders out there, but more vehicle commanders could definitely not hurt, and more vehicles for those commanders would definitely be a great thing. I mean, when it comes to vehicle commanders that we currently have, the first one and probably most vehicle-specific one is Depala Pilot Exemplar. Depala has other dwarves you control get ++1, and each vehicle you control gets ++1 as long as it's a creature. On top of that, whenever Depala becomes tapped, you may pay X. If you do, reveal the top X cards of your library, put all dwarf and vehicle cards from among them in your hand, the rest of them on your library in a random order. So obviously, when Depala crews a vehicle, you're going to get that trigger, and then you're going to be able to get vehicles off the top of your library. There's actually a lot of potential for a new vehicle commander in what it can do to interact with vehicles, or what it can do to improve them. Or we very well might see at that head of that pre-con deck a commander that is actually a vehicle itself with Cosima, God of the Voyage / the Omen Keel. I mean, the Omen Keel is an interesting vehicle. It says whenever a vehicle you control deals common damage to a player, that player exiles that many cards to the top of their library. You may play lands from among those cards as long as they remain exiled. And of course, it interacts with the front of Cosima, which wants to get more and more lands into play. Now, one advantage that this potential new vehicle commander that it's in a pre-con will have over Cosima is that it's most likely going to have more than one color. Again, that is just speculation, as is the rest of this episode, but still. Most of these pre-con decks are at least 2 colors, potentially even 3 colors. Now, most vehicles actually don't have a color identity, but I can see them leaning a little heavier into vehicles like the Omen Keel that do in this set, so we'll see what happens. So obviously, the more colors that your commander is, the more vehicles that you're getting access to. I mean, for example, because of its color identity, Sidri gets access to, like Parhelion 2, which Cosima does not, and Parhelion 2 is quite fun. Sidri can definitely be built in a lot of ways, and when building around a vehicle theme, yeah, it can be a lot of fun. By paying a blue, target non-creature artifact becomes an artifact creature with power and toughness each equal to its converted mana cost until end of turn. So yeah, you can just freely turn your vehicles into creatures. Okay, not freely, it does cost a blue, but you can get around crew cost. Now, keep in mind that this actually interacts in a very interesting way with vehicles in that it's overriding the power and toughness by just utilizing their mana cost as that. So that can help certain vehicles or hurt them or do nothing. In the case of Parhelion, instead of it being a 5/5, you get an 8/8 because of its mana cost. So yeah, there's a lot of potential with this. And speaking of power, one final vehicle commander that I want to highlight to show off the potential of vehicles with commanders. Let's talk about Ghalta Primal Hunger. Ghalta is a 12/12 that costs 10 green, but it's going to cost X less to cast for X the total power of creatures you control, and it's got Trample. Ghalta is a massive dinosaur, and yeah, getting some powerful creatures into play is the way to get her out cheaper. The problem is that when someone wipes the board, it's really hard to get Ghalta back out. So the deck that I built around Ghalta was a vehicle-themed deck where you just have a bunch of vehicles, which are harder to deal with because they get around most board wipes because they're not going to be creatures when your opponents cast their sorcery speed board wipe. So even if Ghalta is dealt with, you just group your vehicles on the next turn and then cast Ghalta again for just 2 mana. So even though Ghalta really doesn't drive vehicles too often, I do call that deck lovingly Dinos and Cars, and yeah, it can be a lot of fun. So I really do enjoy a vehicle theme, and I'm excited to see what kind of a vehicle commander might potentially be coming out in Kamigawa and what vehicles we're going to be getting. But now let's move on to the other potential commander deck with upgrades unleashed. And actually, to start off, let's talk about Weaponized Scrap. Now, like other test cards, Weaponized Scrap is not a legal Magic card. It came out in the mystery boosters with all the other test cards that, well, do some really interesting and wacky things. For example, Weaponized Scrap is a 6/6 artifact creature construct that costs just 4 mana, and it's got Upgrade. This creature enters the battlefield covering another artifact you control if it can't exile it. Ignore the artifact it's covering. Anywhere this card goes, cards underneath it also go. It has haste. Now, I'm highlighting this because Upgrade is kind of this hypothetical mechanic that could be, it actually could probably work. It's kind of like Mutate, but again, this is not an actual mechanic at this point. You essentially say, hey, this artifact basically turns into this 6/6 construct that can smack you. So it was a mana rock, and now it's no longer that. It is now this 6/6 construct. Again, not an actual mechanic at this point, but one that we could potentially see in the future and could be a part of a Kamigawa Neon Dynasty set. It's definitely a possibility. That being said, my gut says that that is not the case. Although this potential mechanic with Upgrade does share a name with, Upgrades Unleashed, and that would make sense, I think it's going to more so be a focus on equipment, which themselves are basically upgrades. Obviously, there are a ton of equipment that see a lot of play in Commander with, just looking at this list, we've got things like Lightning Greaves, Whip of Boots, Skull Clamp, Sword of the Animist, etc., etc., etc. So, yeah, I could definitely see a bunch of equipment being in this set as well with, a future technological theme and having a bunch of artifacts in the set. Again, that is just my thoughts, and I could be very wrong. I mean, maybe we'll see upgrade as the actual mechanic, or a different version of that upgrade, or something completely different. You never know. Regardless, my thought as of this point is basically that first Commander Precon deck is going to be focused on vehicles, and this one's going to be focused on equipment. So both artifact based, but a very different kind of deck. I mean, from the original Kamigawa, we did get some exciting equipment, like, Umezawa's Jite, which I believe is banned in Modern, I could be wrong, but yeah, it's very powerful. It tends to go to his Maul, and even something simple but effective like Shuko. Regardless, the equipment that we do see in the upcoming set are probably going to be really crazy because, well, it's set into the future, so there's a lot of crazy things that you can do. Now, when it comes to commanders that utilize equipment, there are plenty of them out there, and some of them do tend to be a Voltron-style commander like a Sir Gwyn. Sir Gwyn is a 5/5 human knight with vigilance and menace, and she has whatever equipped creature you control attacks, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. Equipment you control have equipped Knight 0. So yes, you could build a Knight tribal deck, but many players just tend to build, hey, let's get all the equipment out and just attach it all to Sir Gwyn. And even if Sir Gwyn is dealt with, we get Sir Gwyn back out, then we just attach everything for free again and swing away and have some fun. Or how about a somewhat recent precon commander with Galea, Kindler of Hope? This Bant commander is a 4/4 elf knight with vigilance that says you may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast or an equipment spells from the top of your library. When you cast an equipment spell, its way it gains. When this equipment enters the battlefield, attach target creature you control. So this commander gives you a ton of card advantage, letting you cast certain things off the top of your library, and yeah, you're going to be focusing on aura and equipment spells, and the equipment get to attach right away. And actually, I really want to highlight a commander that can go in a couple of different directions with, vehicles or equipment or even auras with Shram Senior Edificer. Shram's a 2/2 dwarf advisor that says whenever you cast an aura, equipment, or vehicle spell, draw a card. So you can focus on all of them or one of them and get some card advantage there, though I think many people tend to actually build equipment around Shram. I actually built auras when I originally built Shram, and I'm sure there's some vehicle decks around that are around Shram as well. I mean, but you can even see a completely different direction for equipment with a deck built around Cole the Forge Master. Cole's a 2/2 dwarf warrior that says whenever another non-token creature you control dies if it was enchanted or equipped, return it to its owner's hand. And creature tokens you control that are enchanted or equipped get +1/+1. So this commander can actually focus on more low-to-the-ground equipment like Shuko that are free to equip, and though it might seem, not all that powerful, you can pull off some really incredible things with this, with even a potential turn 2, or even actually, as some people pointed out in the episode, a turn 1 win around Cole. So yeah, there's a lot of different directions that an actual equipment commander can take. And again, I just want to emphasize that these are just my thoughts. Again, none of this is confirmed. We very well might see that upgrade mechanic in some way for this commander, and it's not an equipment deck at all. Regardless, again, I do believe that those images seem to be pretty legitimate, and I do think that those are probably the actual names of the Commander Precons from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, but we won't know that for sure, I'm sure, for quite some time. That being said, I am very excited for Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. It seems like a really exciting set, and I'm excited to see what those Commander Precons are and what the Precon Commanders are. Now, at this point, I believe the set release date is on February 18th of 2022. And if the same timing and pattern is going to be followed that has been followed recently, I believe that the estimated date for spoiler season for it to start is going to be January 27th of 2022. Again, that is just an educated guess, and it is not confirmed. But if that is the case, I believe, again, it's going to be about a week plus a day or so, and then the actual pre-con decks are going to be revealed on the next Monday, which would be February 7th of 2022. Again, those are just guesses, so do not hold me to that. That being said, I am excited for this spoiler season, and I hope you are as well, so make sure you stay tuned to this channel to find out what exciting cards are going to be coming out with those quick takes, and my thoughts on the set and the cards from episodes like, the Golden Pig and the Golden Toilet, etc., etc. And with that, the show is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what your thoughts on this episode are, and as always, thanks again and have a good one.